Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Jenny Aiello, and this is With Love, Jenny, a podcast where we meet ourselves right in the heart of our vulnerability and authenticity. In this sacred space where it's just you and I dive into real life, rich with wisdom and opportunities for deep healing. I explore what it means to truly connect to ourselves, to each other, and to something much greater than us all. In each podcast, I like to meet life right where it touches us most, in our tenderness, in our truth, in our struggles and our strength. So wherever you are on your journey, or whatever it is that you're carrying, no matter how light or heavy, just know I'm so grateful that you're here with me today. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin today's episode. Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome back to another episode of With Love, Jenny. I'm so glad that you're here today, and if you've been following along, and maybe this is the first time you've joined us, and that's great, because I think that today is a great episode. The courage to feel what hurts, but it kind of is a commercial break in this series that I've been doing. And this series, if you have been following along, is a series that came from a mentorship coaching program, certification program I'm in. And in the very first call I had with the founder of this spiritual psychology school that I'm enrolled in, she asked me, what is the hardest thing you've been through? Well, one, that question alone affirmed I was in the right place, and I did sign up for all she had to offer me. But two, I told her I couldn't pick just one. I really couldn't. And I have one by one been unpacking a lot of these things that were hard. And they spanned over a couple decades, thank goodness. But I will say that they lasted years. Some of them are still going on. And so with that said, I decided to take a break here in the midst of sharing. What I told her was I could narrow it down to the 10 hardest things. There's more, but these 10 hardest things that I had been through were actually the things that shaped my life to where it is today and to who I am today. And I can honestly say I'm grateful. I am grateful for every single one of them because they led me to a journey that most of them were unmapped territory. Most of these were things I never saw coming and had absolutely no experience to know how to handle them. And that made it all the more vulnerable for me because I like to look like I have my act together. I like to look like, I'm on it. And you guys, these 10 things are things that broke me. They broke me open. And if they didn't break me totally open in the moment, they broke me open years later. Some broke me open, but there was a whole nother basement level that I had to find. And that would happen years later. But why? Why is it that we would want to feel what hurts? Because, it sucks. Hurting hurts. It just hurts. It's raw. It's pain. And of course, we don't like pain. No one, I don't think, likes pain. Emotional pain is hard. Our emotional wounds, the raw emotional wounds, are filled with pain and shame, and it's not easy to carry it. But it's certainly not easy to unpack it. But what I learned along the way, and this is why I'm sharing this, is that when we do unpack it, there are gifts and there is growth that you would never get had you not experienced it. So I'm really glad you're here today. I appreciate it if you are following my little podcast. I would love for it to grow. I would love for you to share this with whomever can listen. Whoever might be sitting in some pain, maybe share this podcast with them, because I'm going to be talking today about why we do want to feel that thing that hurts. So if you go back, you would have heard me talk about a divorce that happened over 40 years ago. It was one of the first curveballs that life threw at me, where I felt powerless. I felt a loss for control. And I also felt a knowing, a voice that came up from within that was so strong and spoke truth to me. And I had not, probably as consciously in my life, learned to listen to that voice as much as I did during that first devastating thing that I went through. And I talked about my dad and his end of life, the caregiving of him, the loss of him, someone I adored, so close to him, the loss of my brother before that, the loss of my older brother to suicide. And that was another devastating curveball that I had no idea was coming. I had no concept of how to navigate that. It was a different kind of grief. The loss of my mom after my dad, going through dementia and caring for her for as long as I could care for her. And in order to keep her safe, getting her to a place where she was safe, which meant releasing control of her and overseeing her care. So control of her care and keeping her safe and loved and with family as long as I could. And when I couldn't anymore, feeling that hurt. And just, I can't even remember how far I got, but also the journey in my son's addiction and what that did to us as a family. The family dysfunction was exposed. It was hidden in the shadows, and all of us were exposed to something, and none of us had a clue how to operate. And so I kind of told a 2-episode story of what that was like. This episode today is just to pause all of that, because you know what? If I just stopped there, that pain was so real. That was raw and it was long. My son's addiction had spanned 17 years at the point he got sober. We still live one day at a time because that's what we learned to do. And frankly, everyone should do, because nobody knows what tomorrow holds, even what the rest of today holds. And making sure we live in our own sovereignty with our own integrity intact, that we live with no regrets and no second guessing the decisions that we make. And that's hard when we don't even see the shadow. We all have one. We don't see it, nor do we know that it's dictating some of those decisions from behind the curtain. So today I just want to sort of talk about why we need the courage to feel what hurts us. It's such an important topic. And it's a break I wish I would have gotten in this 20-year span. It was one fire after another that we were putting out, sometimes 2 or 3 at once. And I didn't have time to even catch my breath, much less do the work, the inner work. It was patch and go, patch and go, patch and go. And pretty soon that old tire I kept patching fell flat and said, we're not going another minute until you stop and unpack what just happened. And so therein began a deep healing journey for me. But it wasn't until often too late. So these episodes aren't for the purpose of me reliving pain. That's not certainly why I would want to do it. They're more about showing how when we choose to step into the fire of our pain instead of running from it, we can emerge with wisdom and with freedom and a deeper sense of who we are in this world and what our purpose is. And so, yes, I'm going to pause from this series and today just do something a little bit different to take a little break from these stories, a place to rest, a place to reflect and to remind ourselves why we're even on this road together. And if this is your first episode, I think you'll get a glimpse of who I am and why I do what I do on this podcast. And frankly, I began not having a clue about a podcast. It's another uncharted territory for me. And I began wanting to tell these stories. I had a collection of them that were the wounds that were kind of visible to me from childhood or just experiences that happened. And then it quickly kind of went on a little bit of a detour and just exploring topics together that I found fascinating. But then I settled in on and honed in on what I am most passionate about. And it's the most inspiring thing for me when I hear a story or meet someone who has risen despite the odds. When someone has such strength about them that they get through a hardships I've yet to imagine going through, frankly, and they rise and they talk about it and they share that story. They don't sweep it under the rug, never to be seen again. I would understand it if anyone did that, because I did for many years. Telling our hard stories isn't easy. Listening to them isn't easy either. So I thank you for being here. But my hope is that you hear something in my stories. You hear something in my voice that reminds you of your own strength. And it reminds you of the incredible freedom that comes when we have the courage to feel what hurts. I could have kept these stories private. I could have stayed quiet. Some of these stories I'm talking about involve people in my family that I dearly love, and it might expose pain and hurt in them that they would prefer to have not faced or to have kept quiet. My hope is that if they did hear these stories through my perception, my experience of things that we all collectively endured together, that they would feel my heart. They would know it's with love. They would know also they have that same strength. And there is freedom to not stay quiet. There's freedom of being able to not hide that part of our story, not to dwell and repeat the story and become a victim of it. It's actually the opposite. It's to experience the freedom from the story itself. I know deep down that vulnerability is what connects us, and that honesty is what heals us. So I come to you with vulnerability. I come to you with honesty. My life used to be a beautiful, beautiful picture of a happy mom with 5 happy kids and a blended family, so to speak. I had 2 from my first marriage, 3 from this marriage. We all grew up together. We all had fun playing in a cul-de-sac, playing kickball with the neighbors, and just life was good. And then we moved to a new cul-de-sac, and the littler ones grew up swimming next door in our neighbor's pool, and the older ones were having fun being in high school, or at least so I thought. And then soon things started to reveal the messy. And at first I thought it was them going through a phase of life, a phase of adolescence, a phase of being a teenager, a phase of being, an overwhelmed college student. At first, I just thought that's what it was. And I handled the pain, and I went through the courage of feeling the hurt that happened through those early years when this began to bubble up. But it wasn't until they began to tell me, Mom, it's you. It's you that hurt us, that I had to take a step back. I had to take a big step back, and I had to say, wait a minute, time out. How am I capable of intentionally hurting another human? This is a part of me I could not conceive of. I couldn't get a picture anywhere in the way that I knew myself that I would be capable of actually letting myself hurt another. I saw myself as kind and compassionate. But I looked back. I looked back through the years. I pulled the curtain back, way back. There was a lot in there, unprocessed pain, and a lot of unprocessed shame that came from somewhere. And frankly, it doesn't matter, although I can go into that. Maybe I will in future episodes that pointed to something in me that I didn't know was there. The truth of the matter is, not to let myself off the hook, we all have a shadow side. We all have that polarity inside. We all have a capability of doing heinous things if we are pushed to the brink. When we sit back and judge, how could someone do that? Look to their inner world, look to their shadow, and you'll see yours. We're all capable. It's how well do we know ourselves, know thyself, heal thyself. How much do we do that work? And I believe doing the work in our shadow is probably more important because it's the place that we unconsciously, passive-aggressively hurt others from our own hurt, from our own wounds. We can't take responsibility for them because we don't believe they exist. Oh, gosh, stepping into that side of me, stepping behind the veil inside into my own inner wounds that are hidden. The only way, actually, that I could find them in that darkness was because of the people who dared to state the truth to me, to say, Mom, you hurt us. You hurt me with that. And it really was a gift, as much as it hurt to hear it. And frankly, they had a lot of courage to say it, because I want to tell you that before I did that healing work, when someone would hit that raw nerve, where someone would trip the switch that hit the wound hidden away in the dark corners of my shadow side, if they dared to hit it in that split second, I will tell you, if I could pull that apart, and tell you what happened in that 1 second or a half a second. There's a lot. There was a lot that happened in that time frame. Okay. In between that split second, what they didn't know is that I fell deep into a well of shame, deep down to the bottom of a well, and where I could barely breathe. And before I could get back up to the top, gasping for air and splashing around in toxic shame, I was soon splashing toxic shame all over them for exposing it in the first place. And you guys, that was a revelation. We do this. You do it. I do it. We as humans will do this. We have so much more to us than what we know. And how dare someone expose my toxic shame? I didn't want to look at it. That's why it's buried back in the dark shadows. I don't want to deal with it. And yet, when I hurt someone because I didn't deal with it, and they said, "You hurt me," and I knew it, and it threw me back into that wound. And that wound is a deep well of toxic shame or devastating pain. There's a bunch buried there in the shadow, by the way. Having the courage to feel what hurts is the way we heal. We all carry pain, and we all have moments that we would much rather tuck away in the shadow. And when we avoid them, when we deny them, let me tell you, they don't disappear. They just keep showing up passive aggressively. They show up. Long before I faced my shadow, I really thought I had figured it out. If I lost my temper, I apologized and I promised to do better. If I had a disagreement, I would own my part. And that felt like I was taking responsibility. That felt grown up. That felt like emotional maturity. And it was. It took me a long time to get there. But those were the easy wounds. Those were the easy ones, you guys. So when someone comes along and points out a way that I hurt them, or when life showed me a mirror of something and I didn't want to see it in myself, it cracked something open in me. It touched a shame wound that I didn't know was even buried inside. So my divorce did that. I never saw myself being divorced. I never considered that as an option when I married the first time. I didn't see it coming. I had no roadmap. I didn't have experience of how to take care of my kids in the best way to help them heal from that wound. And they would have it their whole life practically. They were so young. And mostly that exposed a deep shadow wound. That one exposed it. And while I healed, and I really thought I had healed from the divorce, but really what I healed was my codependency. I had yet to face the shame wound. It was still lurking back there. It splashed on me some. Some of that came up. Feelings of not being good enough, not being enough to keep that going, that marriage alive. And, the shame wound stayed back there and it didn't get resolved. And frankly, it's still there. I have just brought it from back here in the shadow into my consciousness sitting right in front of me. But when something comes along and it cracks you open and it touches pain that you didn't even know could hurt so much, shame that you didn't even know was buried inside of you, sometimes when that happens, your reaction in the moment, right after that split second, is out of proportion to what just happened. That's how you know you're on to a treasure hunt in your shadow. It's if you are overreacting, if you're in a mushroom cloud and it doesn't need to be that big of a deal, or they're saying, I don't know why you're so upset. You're making a mountain out of a molehill, or this is blown way out of proportion. When you hear these things, take note. Those are pointing you. There's something back there that maybe you haven't felt yet. Maybe it touches some small nerve that you just didn't know was raw. That's a shadow. That's a shadow wound. And it's buried hurt, and it's trying to rise to the surface, and it's begging to be felt and set free. It's begging to come up out of that deep well of pain, to get air, to move toward light. And that's really what's happening. But sometimes we make it about the other person. We make it about external things rather than internal healing. It's so easy because it shows itself through the external, right? It shows up saying, you did this, you were bad, or someone judges you and pisses you off. And it may be that it's an unrighteousness. Like, I just got blamed for something. I didn't even do it. Why are you blaming me? And we go into the drama, right? The drama exists outside of us. And unconsciously, we will fuel that drama all day long because we don't want to ever hint there's something more inside of us. But you guys, there always is. There always is. It's either mirroring a time to revisit, or a time to go deeper, or a time to go on an excavation to find out, where is it? Because if I'm in this, I'm in it because there's something buried alive inside of me, begging for air, trying to find light. Our work, our inner work, is the most important work we ever do. It's the most important work we do for our relationships, for our family members, for our community. Actually, I believe it's our contribution to world peace. Because once we do this work, once we get in our work and we heal, and we do it a lot, we use every opportunity to let something else bubble up, be put in the light, to give an air and released. We become, 1, more enlightened, 2, healthier in our relationships and our bonds, 3, the drama of life, it goes away. It subsides. Yeah, it'll pop up now and then just because we never are done with our inner work. But when it pops up, it's not every day like it was for me for so long. And it took so long to realize the deep, real inner work that was begging to be healed. It takes enormous courage to do this work, to turn around, to face the shadow, to look fear in the eye and say, I'm not backing down. I'm willing to feel what hurts. I'm willing to hear its voice. I'm willing to sit beside it. I'm willing to exhaust it in its narrative so that once it's done, we're done. It can be released. And I no longer push these feelings down or deflect them or numb out with busyness. When I do start finding myself being too busy doing, I know to look inside. Why am I doing this? Is this a deflection of not wanting to feel something? How do you numb out? What is your version of numbing these emotions? But when we do turn and face that fear of feeling vulnerable, fear of feeling pain or shame, we give ourselves a huge gift and we discover what we've actually been running from sometimes our whole life. And we find that we're actually walking through the doorway to freedom. So you all just really know that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing we can do. Brene Brown says it best. She's the expert. I love Brene because she talks about this, and she's one of my early mentors that I went and listened to her speak and read every book hot off the press because she hits home with what this is about. And she says vulnerability is the birthplace of love, of belonging, of joy, of courage, of empathy, and even creativity. And when we have enough courage to feel what hurts, we're not controlled by it anymore. For somebody who doesn't like to be controlled, I've spent most of my life controlling other people, trying to, holding on so tight to control that I practically strangled my family with it. But when we take our power back, when we have the courage to feel what hurts and stop being controlled by it, we stopped acting out of our unconscious pain. That's what happens, you guys. We talk about it. Hurt people, us included. We have to heal the hurt. We have to stop letting shame or fear or pain make decisions for us in those split seconds, or even when we contemplate for a long while. Once we learn to do this as a way of life, or at least that was true for me, we begin to live our truth. We actually birth our purpose. We see why it was there in the first place, and we see why it mattered because it helped us grow into who we are, each of us, with our unique gifts and talents that the world needs. Each of us with a big heart that just wants to love. And we begin to live with freedom. It's amazing. It's amazing when you have the courage. It's energizing when you finally look fear in the eye and it backs down. It can get addictive, so be careful what you wish for. I sure got it by the boatloads for 2 decades of my life. But I want to take a minute here. It's a perfect moment for me to pause, for us to pause, for us to take a breath and just breathe in for a moment. First, remind yourself this journey isn't about perfection. I am also in recovery for perfectionism. It's about presence. Presence not to what is going on around us, presence to what is going on inside of me. Oh, that's a big one, right? Remind yourself to be present. What's going on right now? Pause. Take a breath. Step back before you respond, before you react. Pause. What's this showing me about myself? It either has a flashlight, a spotlight, illuminating your shadow, which is a minefield of toxic pain and shame wounds, and you're reacting because you don't want anybody to know it lives there. Or it's a mirror saying, this is what I have and my toxic shame. And it's mirroring back, truth is, so do I. Boy, sometimes that truth hits me square between the eyes and I have to shake my head and go, oh man, here it goes again. Back to the drawing board, back to the basics of what that healing is really all about. And, it's also taking that courage, not just so we heal and not so we quit hurting others unintentionally. It's so we show up bigger, that we can show up stronger and more courageous in life. And it's saying yes to a podcast when it wasn't something I really knew anything about. It's saying yes to the whole thing. It's saying yes to anything that shows up. So I want to ask you to do some deep reflections between now and the next podcast episode, I want you to really try to look within and don't go it alone. Get a coach who's really good at working with this inner child, who's good at doing shadow work. It's a good trauma coach, because usually the ones we are hiding are ones that also hold some traumas. And you want to be ready when you open the curtain and you pull it up and you examine it. To me, if I got to dive to the bottom of that well of shame and splash around in it and get it over with, I want it quick, efficient, and thorough. Quick, efficient, and thorough. That, my friends, is what an E4 trauma process is. The E4 method is something that is developed by Dr. Aaron Haskell, and I have been trained in this to be an E4 practitioner and a spiritual psychology coach. And I have had the great privilege of being able to experience that myself. Quick, efficient, and thorough. I get new commands and I make vows to be done with that as much as I possibly can be. And we get vulnerable, and I want to dive deep. I want to get it over with. I don't want to keep revisiting the same story. I don't want to have to keep diving back into my shadow. I want to get it all done so it can heal. It's like all the infection out of the wound so the wound can finally heal. That's what this work is all about. That's why I share stories and the profound pain without going too deep in it to traumatize anyone out there carrying it, but enough for you to get the picture that this work matters. It matters to me, and I hope it matters to you, that we never stop doing our work. Never. I want to share some insights I got from actually a TED Talk, and I apologize ahead of time because these were notes I took for myself, not knowing I'd one day share them with you. I don't remember the name of the TED Talk, and I don't really remember who shared these, but I want to give them to you because it's what we talk here about. When you are overcome with intense emotions, such as anger and fear, sometimes we might dissociate and become all consumed with the emotions. These emotions are coming from the repressed emotions of the shadow. It becomes more and more difficult to stay open and grounded, and you become uncontrollable, which is another way of saying you are powerless. And so when these erupt, you might not be able to stop the eruption. You may say angry things, say hurtful things, say things you can't take back. And all I can do is hope that the person you said them to has the fortitude to understand you're in pain. You are trying to talk with them, and that trigger that went off and that eruption that's coming up, and you're overcome with it. It's so much that you have no time to regroup and things erupt. So one of the things that I learned is that the first step in integrating the shadow parts of yourself is to get radically honest with yourself. It's very hard to come face to face with the parts of ourselves that we have repressed, especially if we don't know that they're there. And so we have to get radically honest. We have to go back to the parts we do know about and look deeper at them. If, for instance, with my children, my first two children, they were too young to be able to do any of this work. They were 2 and 3 years old when we went through our divorce. But they know that when they were 2 or 3 years old, a divorce happened. And they know the facts, of what happened in their life as that time went on. And that's when you go back and say, I feel like I've dealt with it as I have in the consciousness of what I know about growing up with divorced parents. But in the shadow might be feelings of guilt. If I were enough, maybe they'd stay together. If I were good enough, if I didn't act out, if I didn't cry so much, if I didn't show my big emotions, maybe they would have some of those showing up today. And it's time to clean out that wound that's back there in the shadow. So you have to get very honest with yourself and get face to face with the parts that have been repressed. Sometimes it's a rude awakening when you become aware that we don't know everything there is to know about ourselves. So be very compassionate with yourself. And if someone else is going through this, be compassionate with them. Don't confuse compassion with complacency, because those two things are very much not the same. The second thing I learned is that it begins with awareness. But by naming it and then having compassion for that quote unquote affliction, that doesn't heal. If you named it, let's say ADHD, but it was really deep trauma, then it's not going to heal and you'll go forward with that affliction. So really take those quote unquote afflictions and turn them into a real deep dive with someone helping you through this, a therapist or coach, and take time to unpack that. Do you have shame over it? Probably the answer is yes. Did you experience trauma? Probably the answer is yes. And every time something comes close to touching that trauma, you might erupt with feelings that go all the way back into the well of shame. And you divert so fast that it looks like an attention problem, when really it's a trauma problem. And I'm not saying that all ADHD is rooted in trauma, because I don't know. I am not expert in that, but I can certainly see how the two could get mislabeled. The ones that are truly ADHD and some that are trauma-based ADHD. So, reading my notes, have compassion with yourself, and at the same time have curiosity about where it began and how. Keeping in mind, I'm just being curious. Like you're just going to get some facts out of the story without getting attached to the story, but feel the feelings. That's very hard to do unless you have a trained coach or therapist. From this place, you get to plant a seed of change. When you get into that, you get to plant something. You get to say, instead of just accepting that's how it is, or accepting that's how it was, or that's who you are, maybe from here you can learn new ways of relating to yourself. Maybe from here you can see the wholeness of both who you are in your truth and what exists and lives in your shadow. What is your capacity for acceptance? Acceptance can truly liberate you. Can you look at your shadow and bring the light of presence, and from that place, the light of acceptance, accepting that that is part of who I am, the inner child left behind in these wounds, the inner child that absorbed them and then had to figure out how to do life with them when they're all consuming, needs loved, needs compassion, not judgment. The opposite of accepting is judging. So catch, why am I judging myself? Why am I judging someone else? Go look in your shadow. There's so much about you there. It's like a whole library. And when you're curious and compassionate and loving with yourself, and you pull a book off the bookshelf in the shadow that says, here, Jenny, here's another book about why you do the things you do, it is enlightening, liberating when you do it with that in mind, to be there, to say, wow, look at how you survived. Look at how you were so clever in the tools that you picked up along the way. Granted, they don't work anymore. Never did really, but they got you here. What do you say we let those tools go and get some new ones? That's a great way to look at this. Third, it really is hard to evolve when you meet yourself with shame and more toxic shame. That's what you're there to heal from. Instead, work with and repair the aspect of yourself in a way that shifts how you relate emotionally or to the emotion that you're feeling. What is your relationship to shame? What is your relationship to fear? Is it the big hairy monster you run from that you hate knowing exists? Or is it a door called fear? And when I go sit on the other side and face what's behind it, I heal. I transform it into love. I find my power. I take my power back. It's really not all as horrible as it sounds to feel what hurts. I'll tell you that the fourth thing is when we deny our shadow, it doesn't honor the entirety of who we are. It doesn't honor the wholeness that lives inside of us. And we crave wholeness, to be able to feel completely whole and not like in fear of something back there might pop its ugly head out at any given time. And what will I do? 5, awareness. Openness. Curiosity. Those 3 things anchor a new level of humility. We need more humility. There's so many talking heads and people walking around like they know the answer to everything, like they know they don't. I'm sorry, I won't get on my soapbox, but there's so many people talking about things that they really don't know. Do they look at the whole story? No, because they don't look at the whole story in here. And until you've done this work, you have no right to judge another. Until you have gotten to a place where you don't judge another, you haven't done all your work. It's as simple as that. 6, you cannot dive into shadow work from a place of being entitled or a place of superiority or spiritual and moral superiority. When people take that position from a place of superiority or one up, I have all the answers. I know what's happening, and I'm going to tell you how it is. You can't take a position you cannot be in entitlement. You cannot be in your ego when you do this work. You just can't. If your ego's doing it, let me tell you, it's going to weaponize it on you and others at any moment. It will just pick it up and use it. Entitlement is its own wound. It's a way of coping from one of the shadow ones. So if you are meeting up with that in yourself, you need to get humble. You need to find your humility and humbly walk into the shadow. Don't go in there like you know it all. Oh, how the universe loves to whack us around when we do. Trust me, I've done it all. I've tried every way to avoid this stuff. So yeah. 7, all shadow thrives in denial. I'm going to say that again. All shadow work thrives in denial. When we're entitled, we're in denial. And when we're in denial, then we feel entitled because when my kids said, "You hurt me," and I went into entitlement or into denial, how could I possibly be capable of that? I am a love muffin. I have loved you. Do you not know what I did for you? Do you not remember when I did this and this and this? Did you not feel loved when I put my needs aside for you? Wow, you guys, I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it. I messed up big time in that way. I wish I knew then what I know now after I've done all this shadow work, going in entitled, denying what the universe is showing you. When it shows up, it means business. When that universe puts something on your path and it's in your face, deal with it. Don't go into denial. Don't push it aside. Don't get all one up around it. Deal with it. The faster you do, the better life gets. And I really wish I would have done this sooner. And at the same time, I have acceptance for the divine perfection that I got here. I got here before I died. I made it in time to still live my life from a place of freedom, from the emotional freedom to be with people. My clients, there is hardly a well of pain and shame that they take me to. And believe me, they do. I will sit right beside them. I know it so well in so many different deep wells of pain and shame that now that I've done the work, you can bring me anything and I will sit with you. I won't fix you. I won't try to make it go away because I don't believe that's the point. If I made it go away, then you lose the gift it's bringing you in the first place. And I won't do that to you, but I will show you the way out, efficient and thorough. We will get out, right? So yeah, don't go into denial. When you remove the comfort of denial, you can actually see the truth of who you are. Another brilliant thing this person that I wish I could credit said. Such good nuggets for you guys today. When you remove the comfort of your own denial, then you can actually see the truth of who you are. And you guys, you don't have to be afraid of that. Some people put on mask after mask after mask, trying to look right, be right, not be judged. When we peel those masks off, some people actually believe if they come face to face with the truth of who they are, that they're going to feel shame, that they are shame. No, you just haven't gotten to the bottom of the well yet. Because when you find the truth of who you are, it's the holiness of who you are. It's your divinity. It's your light. It's your beauty. It's your truth. That's what we're all striving for here in this human suit. Our spirit brought us here so we could learn the truth about who we are. So let's get on with it. So those are the 7 nuggets. Yes, it can be challenging, but doing it provides such opportunity for growth. This person went on to say that she had not found a way to bypass our darkness if we want to reach our enlightenment. The darkness is telling us, you came here to illuminate me. In order to do that, you have to see everything that I hold. If you aren't willing to see everything I hold, then you can't fully reach the light. It takes courage to love. It takes bravery. If we deem the other as the scum of the earth, then we embrace our own darkness. We leave so much love unspoken. Taking the mysticism out of the story of human life makes it difficult to negotiate life. It makes it difficult on this incredible journey. Because if you have a story about where you're going, you don't have to cling to certainties. You don't have to create an arrogance of control. In the stillness, you get to hear what it is that you're unwilling to heal. That is why we often fill our world with noise, with busyness, with the television on or the music on. It's why it's hard to meditate or sit still. When we have that drive with noise and crowds, most especially, it's why it feels so incredibly challenging to do this work. We're not touched with the duty and responsibility and the necessity that we have to change along with our desires. It's very human to wait for change to happen when in fact it is our duty to create the change. It's our duty to do that so that our desires begin to happen around us. This is not about pretending to be someone you're not. This is not about finally stepping up to the plate and just be who you really are. It's being who you rarely are. When we focus on our productivity, we highlight what we have to do to feel worthy rather than who we get to be, where worthiness is our birthright because we are human. I know, I trust that the real gift of being with our own mortality is the sheer wonder that we ever get to live at all. So, you guys, why am I telling you this today? Because I believe with all my heart that this path of courage and vulnerability, of feeling what hurts, is not just my path, it's yours too. You may be walking through grief or divorce or caregiving or something you can't even name yet. And you might wonder, why would I want to lean into this pain? Isn't it easier to just keep going, to outrun it, to be strong and not to think about it? But strength is not avoidance. True strength is the willingness to feel. And when you feel, you heal. So as we close this conversation and move into the guided meditation, which if you would like, you just go to the show notes and hit the link for the guided meditation that's specific to today's topic. I want to leave you with this. At the core of our healing is not the absence of pain, but the courage to walk through it. The freedom we long for is already there waiting on the other side. All we need is the courage to feel what hurts. Keep showing up for your own beautiful life. Keep showing up so you get to live your truth. Keep showing up and doing this work to help heal the world, not just your wounds. And make sure you do it with someone who's qualified to walk into the pain with you. Don't just trust anyone. Do your homework. You want the right person. You want the person who can sit in the fire with you and tell you, I'm going through it with you, and we'll get to the other side and mean it. I am so grateful to you. I am so thankful that I began this podcast. I hope it touches your heart. I hope it inspires you. I hope it answers questions that you didn't realize you even had. I hope that you find truth and companionship in your journey as I share mine. I vulnerably, openly, courageously share my heart with you, as always, with love. Take care. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you found a spark of wisdom to carry with you, and maybe even a deeper invitation to heal and grow and transform through your own beautiful story. Or maybe this episode made you think of someone who could use encouragement. And if so, I hope you will share it with them. If you'd like to learn more about working with me or attending one of my healing retreats, coaching programs, and other offerings, you can visit my website at jennyaiello.com or email me directly at jenny@jaiello.com. You'll find all the links in the show notes. If today's episode touched you, it would mean the world if you would leave a review or share it with someone who might need it, or just reach out and let me know how it landed for you. I'd love to hear from you. I'm building something special here. Real stories, real life, real connection. One episode, one heart, and one story at a time. As always, with love. Oh, and this is the legal message, but mostly a message from my heart, and I just need to share this with you right now. Please know this podcast is offered solely for educational and entertainment purposes. If you find yourself triggered due to anything that was shared in this podcast, please seek professional help. This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for mental health services. While I am a professional life coach, I am not a psychotherapist, nor am I a mental health clinician. So if you are struggling emotionally, please seek help, because you matter, you are important, and most of all, you are worthy of doing this work, the work that leads you to a better and healthier place. Okay? All right. Thank you. And please always make enough time to take care of yourself, and do so with love.